Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Physicians for Social Responsibility's 2022 Virtual Gala. We are delighted to have you with us. That's right, we're virtual again this year. Hopefully, in 2023, we can go back to a live program and come together in person. But we're virtual again this year. I'm Jeff Carter. I'm PSR's Executive Director. This has been a very busy an exciting year for PSR. We're going to share some of that with you tonight, talk about some of our plans for the future. And in a moment, I'm going to hand you off to Mike Martin, our 2022 board president. He's going to tell you a little bit more about our program and about our guests. It's really going to be great. Well, before I do that, I want to thank all of you who have already contributed to this year's gala. And I want to thank those of you who intend to give tonight during the program. Your donations directly support our work to combat climate change and bring an end to the use of nuclear weapons. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Mike Martin, who will provide you with more details about our exciting evening. Mike?
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Martin, and I come to you tonight from San Francisco, California. I'm president of PSR's national office in Washington, D.C., and I'm delighted you could join us tonight from around the country. I want to thank you on behalf of our board, our chapter leaders, and the PSR staff. PSR's primary mission is to address two existential threats: climate change and the risk of nuclear destruction. Never before has our world faced these two existential threats together. And unfortunately, climate change significantly increases the chance of nuclear conflict as it causes water shortage, food scarcity, mass migration, and political upheaval. Fortunately, PSR is aggressively working to address the risk of both climate change and nuclear conflict. We have 22 chapters around the country, and our national presence allows us to have both a local and a national impact. I'm extremely proud of PSR's important work. We're working on behalf of you, your children, and those you love. We're working not just for future generations, but for all of us living today, because we are all experiencing the adverse impact of climate change. And nuclear conflict is a current threat to all of us. My wife, Jeannie, and I recently experienced the joy of having our first grandchild, Lee Martin. I want Lee to grow up in a world that's safe and secure. That's one of the reasons I work so diligently with PSR, to make our world a better place. The theme for tonight's gala is bridging our best to what comes next. We're honored to have two phenomenal speakers this evening. First, we'll hear from Anna Ikeda. Anna is the Program Coordinator for Disarmament, Office of UN Affairs at Soka Gakkai International. Soka Gakkai is a global, community-based Buddhist organization that promotes peace, culture, and education centered on respect for the dignity of life. We'll then have a discussion with Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, who's well known for her role in uncovering the Flint water crisis and leading the recovery effort. Dr. Hanna-Attisha is professor of public health at Michigan State University of Human Medicine, and she is the founding director of the Pediatric Public Health Initiative. I can't wait to hear from both these extraordinary leaders. And I also want to thank our generous gala sponsors. We thank our business partners, Creative Print Group, and Lumix CPA. We also thank our individual sponsors, Jeff Carter, Bernard Crane, Gwen Dubois and Terry Fitzgerald, Lisa Doggett, Elaine Ferranti, Jennifer Leaning, Alan and Ann Lockwood, Mike and Jeannie Martin, Art Milholland and Luann Mostello, John Pastore, Todd Sack and Barbara Sharp, and Barbara Warren. We would love to add your name to this list of supporters. Please visit psr.org/gala to make a gift today by credit card, or if you want, you can find information at that website as to how to mail in a check or pay from a donor-advised fund. Thank you again to our speakers for joining us, our gala host committee, and the PSR staff who worked tirelessly to make this evening a huge success. And thanks go to those who have supported this gala thus far and those who intend to donate tonight. Thank you for your generosity. Sit back, relax, and remember that tonight is a fundraiser. Please give as though our lives and the lives of our children and future generations depend on it, because to some degree they do. I hope you enjoy the evening, and thank you so much for your participation.
Hello, my name is Bella Javidan, and I am the Communications Director for PSR National. And here are some highlights from our work in 2022. So this year, we've intensified our effort to draw attention to the use of forever PFAS chemicals in fracking operations around the country, starting with a report on how the manufacturers of fracking chemicals enjoy an exemption from having to disclose the chemicals used in their products. We also published reports documenting use of forever PFAS chemicals in fracking operations in Colorado and Ohio specifically. And PSR's report on PFAS use in Colorado was a major influence on a law banning PFAS from use in oil and gas operations in that state. Many of our chapters around the country are adding the health voice to the building electrification movement, highlighting the harms to health of burning fracked gas in stoves and furnaces and calling for replacing them with highly efficient electric alternatives. This past year, we've trained nearly 800 individuals on the health threats from gas stoves, with the majority of them being health professionals themselves. We also published a report on the threats to climate and safety of blending hydrogen with methane for combustion in stoves and furnaces. Meanwhile, our Next Generation Climate and Health Ambassador Program is growing. This program is engaging a diverse cohort of young and emerging healthcare professionals to become leaders in the climate justice movement. Another key program providing young health professionals with advocacy experience and opportunities is our Demand Access Campaign, a new intersectional approach to nuclear weapons abolition led by a steering committee consisting of young health professionals. This campaign has been crafted to create a new cohort of young health professionals working at the intersection of justice, public health, and redefining security by advocating for a reduced military budget and reinvestment into our communities. Opportunities for wins in Congress were few and far between this year, but we are proud of our efforts to extend the existing RECA law for 2 years. The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, or otherwise known as RECA, is a program that compensates victims of nuclear weapons development and testing. And this bipartisan 2-year extension is an important first step to preserve and expand RECA. However, this is just a stopgap measure, and advocacy for the extension and expansion of RECA is still a priority moving forward. PSR also was a mobilizing partner for the Poor People's Campaign Moral March on Washington this past summer. And now I am very excited to introduce this next performer and my friend, a professional recording artist, who will be performing his song No Going Back.
Hi, I'm Yuno, and I'm happy to perform a song for PSR's annual gala supporting their work advocating for our climate and a nuclear weapons-free world.
Thank you so much to Yuno for raising the heat for us tonight. Yuno, spelled Y-U-N-O, is the artist Yuno Moodle, who's from my town of Jacksonville, Florida. You'll find Yuno at Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you download. Hi, my name is Todd Sack. I'm a gastroenterologist and serve on the boards of directors for PSR National and for our Florida chapter. What makes PSR unique and so effective, and why Barbara and I are happy to give our support, is that PSR brings thousands of health voices to take on directly the threats of nuclear war and climate change. But PSR does not do this work alone. I'd like to take a moment to thank the many foundations that believe in our work and support us. These include the Energy Foundation, Plowshares, the Northlight, the Stroman Foundation, the Park Foundation, the Western Conservation Foundation, the Climate Action Campaign, Sierra Club, the High Tide Foundation, and the Climate Imperative Foundation, Thank you. Next, we'll hear about the inspiring work of our dozens of PSR chapters across America. But first, I'd like to let you know how to add your name to our list of supporters. Please visit psr.org/gala to make a gift by credit card right now. You'll also read how to send us a check or to use a donor-advised fund to support our work. That's psr.org/gala. Thank you so much for supporting our work this year, perhaps more than ever before, as we confront the imminent threats of nuclear war and climate change. Remember that link, psr.org/gala. For more than 60 years, Physicians for Social Responsibility National has been supporting our more than 20 chapters across America, which in turn support their thousands of volunteer health professional activists. It is this partnership between PSR National and PSR chapters that make PSR uniquely effective at bringing responsible health voices to confront the threats of nuclear war and climate change. Hi, my name is Todd Sack. I'm a gastroenterologist and serve on the boards for both PSR National and for my Florida chapter. In a few minutes, you're going to hear directly from 6 of our 20 biggest chapters. You will be as energized as I am by the work they're doing. But first, I want to tell you about some of the ways that your donation to PSR National helps to strengthen our chapters. PSR provides chapters with website and marketing services, advanced policy research, networking, and direct grant support. Our chapters sometimes confront issues that are specific to their area, and at other times work together with PSR National on common campaigns. But our work is always about saving human lives from the gravest threats to health and survival. Please find your own local chapter by going to psr.org. Get involved. You'll meet friendly, informed, passionate, and effective PSR leaders who are making differences in their communities. I guess my message is support and get involved with your local PSR chapter, but also please donate to PSR National right now by going to psr.org/gala. That's psr.org/gala. And now, with no further delay, I turn it over to leaders from 6 of our chapters to tell you about their inspiring work.
Hi, I'm Anna Lanakis, the Executive Director of Greater Boston PSR, the founding chapter of PSR National.
I'm Tanya Verkaitis, the Executive Director of PSR Pennsylvania.
Dr. Gwen Du Bois. I am President of Chesapeake Physicians for Social Responsibility.
Hi, I'm Dr. Elise Riley. I'm an internist from the Silver Spring, Maryland area.
Hi, my name is Hannah Mortensen, and I'm the Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility Wisconsin.
PSRPA has spent the past 10 years focused on protecting Pennsylvanians from the inherent risks of the unconventional gas development industry. The communities supported by this work are composed of marginalized, ethnically diverse, low-income, poor, and rural populations that live in areas disproportionately burdened by the environmental hazards of oil and gas industry, which increases their health disparities.
We have testified in over 28 bills in the legislature in Annapolis this past year. And one of our steering committee members, who is the longest serving physician in the assembly in Maryland, just retired. He and our lobbyists put together a webinar to teach us how to lobby effectively. I'm going to let Dr. Riley talk about our work in Annapolis and mostly for the environment.
I joined CPSR 2 years ago. Since joining, my major focus has been on issues related to climate change and legislation related to climate and toxins. It's been a very busy 2 years. CPSR has worked on a variety of different bills related to climate, toxins, and equity. We've provided written testimony, oral testimony, and signed on many letters of support with other environmental organizations.
We are hoping to stay on top of policies and rulemaking to make sure we have strong public health protections in our laws and rules.
We also hope to continue our work to redirect funds, which have been used by gas utilities to replace aging gas infrastructure with new pipes, to build new geo-micro districts, networked ground source heat pumps that deliver heat through utility-scale water pipe networks. We will continue to oppose the expansion of hydrogen into homes and commercial buildings for heating and cooking.
PSRPA engages with impacted residents and grassroots community organizations to provide the tools that arm residents and legislators with the data that allows them to be more effective advocates for their communities.
We've also been active as advocates in the community regarding environmental justice and climate, from our work surrounding the Peabody Peaker plant to the Eversource substation in Chelsea and fighting air pollution in Weymouth.
In 2022, we faced some challenges and some successes. One challenge being the toxic contamination of our environment and our drinking water, especially PFAS chemicals, which are also called forever chemicals. We have advocated for stronger health protections and PFAS standards in our state, as well as just general education about what is in our water and the right of people to know what is in their water.
Though we faced many challenges this year, the biggest by far for our state have to be the upcoming election and the recent Governor Wolf's signing of the Pennsylvania Economic Development for a Growing Economy, PA-EDGE, tax credit, House Bill 1059. $50 million in tax credits, which he states will help attract a regional hydrogen hub in Pennsylvania and accelerate the shift to clean energy. The bill also offers tax credit for the use of natural gas, meant to be a short-term fail-safe in the event that these hubs are constructed and hydrogen is not immediately available. HB 1059 is a devastating boon for the fossil fuel industry at a time when we need to support the just transition to clean, renewable energy.
We are also facing the challenge of climate change. In 2022, though, we supported renewable energy, especially solar development in our state. We called for the retirement of coal plants and a strong no to any new fossil fuel infrastructure in our state, as well as providing climate change education to health professionals and the general public.
GBPSR members sponsored successful resolutions at the Massachusetts Medical Society on hydrogen, on decarbonizing health infrastructure, and advocacy on gas stoves. In fact, following this advocacy, the American Medical Association passed a resolution that cooking with a gas stove increasing household air pollution and the risks of childhood asthma.
One of the major pieces of legislation that we worked on was the Climate Solutions Now 2022 bill. This is a comprehensive bill addressing climate issues and setting goals and deadlines for addressing greenhouse gas emissions, as well as a variety of other issues. It was passed in the spring of this year, which is a major accomplishment. This bill is one of the more aggressive bills in the country, addressing climate change, and puts Maryland at the forefront in terms of the climate change movement. I'm very proud of the work that CPSR did on it, and I'm also very proud of Maryland for having passed it. It's quite an accomplishment.
My work's mostly anti-nuclear work. I've been doing this with Physicians for Social Responsibility since 1984, and I'm totally grateful to have this community to do the work. It's very difficult work to do alone. You really can't. And they're amazing people in National PSR. Some of the leaders in the anti-nuclear movement are here in Physicians for Social Responsibility. Our mentors, but back in the 80s, and then people still in the chapter now, as well as staff people. But here locally in Chesapeake PSR, we've been very active part of Back from the Brink campaign.
We worked on hosting Ira Helfand to come to Madison, Wisconsin and talk about the impacts of nuclear weapons and what we can do with the Back from the Brink resolution in our state. We also hosted our annual Lanterns for Peace event, commemorating the lives lost in Hiroshima and Nagasaki while calling on a future without nuclear weapons. We also emphasized collaborating with other peace organizations in our state to bring about lasting change.
In terms of our nuclear programming, This year, we were able to expand the number of towns that passed back from the brink resolutions across the state of Massachusetts. We're now up to 20 towns. This fall and into the new year, we hope to continue to get co-sponsors from the national version of this bill, embracing the goals and the provisions on the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, and H-Res 1185, which was introduced by Congressman Jim McGovern. Congressman Richie Neal just agreed to co-sponsor, and we hope many more to come this year.
We co-founded a group in Maryland called Prevent Nuclear War Maryland, which has helped us achieve 4 resolutions in the state. 43% of Marylanders live where back from the brink resolutions have passed. In addition, Prevent Nuclear War Maryland, which CPSR co-founded, had an event on the first anniversary of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, where we went around to the different embassies in D.C. of nations that had ratified the treaty. And we had really great experiences. And in the embassy for Kazakhstan, the ambassador brought us in, and we talked and we chatted, and he was very knowledgeable, because Kazakhstan is a country where Russia or the Soviet Union tested their weapons. So their people were victimized just as what we did to the people of the Marshall Islands.
There's a few initiatives that we're hoping to expand in 2022. One of them being the Back from the Brink resolution. We are thrilled to work on a City of Madison Back from the Brink resolution this year, and look forward to working with many organizations to get this passed. We are also hosting our annual Health and Environment Conference on March 31st, and this year it will be in person with 3 amazing speakers.
Things we're excited about expanding and continuing in the new year are research on radioactive emissions in proximity to fracking, and providing industry tours to healthcare professionals, researchers, and journalists. Over the past year, PSRPA has continued to work with researchers from Wayne State University and the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center to finalize a focused research project on radon and radon decay products emitted in the process of unconventional gas development in proximity to residents, which may present. As part of the Clean Energy Convergence in September, PSRPA partnered with the Breathe Project and the Environmental Integrity Project to organize 4 different tours of petrochemical manufacturing, steel and coal plants, fracking sites producing natural gas, and infrastructure that makes up the midstream section of gas production. These tours highlighted the heavy health toll of Southwest Pennsylvania residents.
And lastly, we're hoping to just focus on our 3 things: advocacy, education, and change.
Next year, we'd like to continue to bring healthcare professionals, legislators, and journalists face-to-face with the environmental degradation wreaked by these industries and the people that live in close proximity to them. Thank you.
We'll continue to try to make personal connections and pull in youth. These seem to be the key to thriving and to our future. Our monthly meetings are on Zoom and open to the public. Check out the dates on the event page of our website, which is gbpsr.org, and please join us. Thanks.
We are a small chapter. The issues we're dealing with are immense, but we're still here, and we're doing the best we can, and we're doing it in the community of each other and with National PSR, which has been really amazingly important experience, especially in these hard times. Thank you.
One of the best parts of working with CPSR has been the opportunity to work with people there. It's an incredibly impressive group of people. Smart, kind, hardworking, and fun. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your support of PSR and PSR Wisconsin. We're looking forward to the work in 2023.
What an inspiring video celebrating our PSR chapters and all of the phenomenal work they've done this past year. Our chapters truly are the heartbeat of this organization. Good evening. My name is Jasmine Owens, and I'm the Associate Director for the Nuclear Weapons Abolition Program at PSR. I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing someone we all admire and have had the pleasure of working alongside for many years. Anna Ikeda is the Program Coordinator for Disarmament in the Office of UN Affairs at Soka Gakkai. Anna's work focuses on nuclear abolition and stopping killer robots. Anna grew up in Japan and has practiced Buddhism with the Soka Gakkai since she was little. Anna is part of the United Religions Initiative's Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons Cooperation Circle, and she's a campaigner for the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, or ICAN. She also serves on the board of directors of the Meta Center for Nonviolence. And with that, I will pass the microphone over to Anna. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Congratulations on holding this gala. What a special evening. I congratulate the Physicians for Social Responsibility for your important work over the course of many years. And I congratulate and appreciate each one of you, the members of the PSR, for contributing your time, expertise, passion, and financial resources to support the work of the PSR, while also juggling your work, family, and many other commitments. I feel truly honored to join you to celebrate you today. With the current war in Ukraine, we are facing an urgent threat of the use of nuclear weapons. What's worse, the risk is even heightened by responses from other governments that imply possible retaliation with nuclear weapons. You've also seen some commentary and analysis examining possible scenarios of nuclear weapons use in the conflict and evaluating the consequent military implications. Such developments somehow normalize the idea of using nuclear weapons. It makes nuclear weapons look like a plausible option. We need to do everything we can to delegitimize that. And your advocacy and activism as healthcare professionals are key to refuting such views that responding to a nuclear threat with another threat is somehow okay. And of course, that is just one aspect of many urgent issues we're facing at international, national, and local levels that impact people's lives everywhere. For this reason, PSR's mission is important all the time, but I feel that it is more important than ever in today's world. As I refreshed my knowledge about the PSR in preparation for today, I couldn't help but notice the similarities between PSR and my organization, Soka Gakkai International. As the SGI's representative to the United Nations, I work on behalf of the members of the Soka Gakkai, a global community of Buddhists dedicated to peace, culture, and education, especially in our disarmament efforts. I would imagine you are part of the PSR community because your background as physicians and healthcare professionals makes you acutely aware of the urgency of addressing the issues of nuclear weapons and climate change. Your commitment to the profession perhaps gives you the sense of responsibility because you understand how devastating the consequences of those issues could be because of your scientific, ethical, and humanitarian perspectives. My organization, SGI, started in 1930 in Japan as a society of educators who found in Buddhist teachings an inspiration for educational reform, through which they aspired to transform their country. Later on, the organization expanded into a broad-based movement exploring the practical transformative effects of Buddhist practice. However, the commitment to transform society based on humanistic principles and respect for the dignity of each person has stayed central to our organization's identity. In 1957, the second president of our organization, Josei Toda, delivered a speech calling for the abolition of nuclear weapons. His message was quite simple. Nuclear weapons destroy life. They are a fundamental threat to our inalienable right to live. So as Buddhists who uphold the dignity of human beings and the interconnectedness of all life, we absolutely oppose nuclear weapons, just as you, the PSR members, work to protect human life from the gravest threats to health and survival, you know what is at stake. I also learned that you have active local chapters, which brings diversity of experiences and activities. Similar to that, SGI has local and national constituent organizations with varying degrees of activities related to nuclear weapons, climate change, and other issues. And we, like PSR, have focused on fostering the younger generations because we know that our goals require long-term, ongoing engagement. In fact, I would say inspiring new generations of people committed to building a peaceful, safe, healthy, and vibrant future is an integral part of our activism. I say this because I believe that ultimately our journey for such a world requires transforming people's ideas about security, economy, environment, and our relationships with each other. It requires a cultural shift from the current culture of war and violence to that of peace and nonviolence. We need to continue inspiring the changes in people's mindset across generations so that there will be more and more people like you who realize that national security or economic prosperity should not endanger human security and our health. I did not see myself as a leader until I was a graduate student at University of Denver. I was involved in the SGI's campus club, where our main activity was to hold workshops on Buddhist concepts for interested students on campus. I was quite active, and the following year I was asked to take a leadership role in the local SGI Buddhist community in Colorado. A few years later, I was appointed as the SGI USA's national coordinator of university-level students. And that's when I was asked to help design and lead a campaign to discuss the issue of nuclear weapons on university campuses through our SGI campus clubs. It was also my introduction to the issue of nuclear weapons. And I admit that even as a former human rights major, I did not initially see the connection between myself and the issue. But as I read more, listened to the stories of survivors, and at the same time examined the issue from the perspective of my faith, I came to understand why, as a Buddhist and as someone concerned about human rights violations, this is an important issue, and my passion just exploded. And fast forward several years, I was asked to work for my current office, doing the work that I do now. I decided to share my personal journey with you today for several reasons. First, I mentioned that I did not see myself as a leader. I consider myself to be an introvert, and interacting with people can be exhausting to me. I do not have a degree in nuclear nonproliferation or security studies, but I have always done what I was asked to do. I've always given my best shot. I have consistently shown up for what I'm committed to do, and I'm able to see things from different perspectives because of my background and spirituality. I am a great team player. I've also had the fortune of having great people who inspired me through their commitment, seriousness, compassion, care, and joy. Those were the people who gave me the opportunities to express my ideas freely. Let me experiment with those ideas and be ready to catch me if they did not work out. Through interacting with those people, I've learned to bring the best versions of myself to whatever occasions presented to me. When we speak about abolishing nuclear weapons and addressing the climate crisis while fostering next generations of leaders, we need everyone, because the issues affect every single one of us, regardless of where we live, our age, race, gender identity, or any other aspects of our lives. This work is intergenerational. We need every one of us to bring our ideas and our best selves I am sure each one of you have inspired someone like me through your advocacy work because you care so much about this planet and the people. Some of us, especially if you're part of the younger generations, may feel that you do not know enough about the issues or that your voice is not that important. Imagine my anxiety when I was asked to speak at this event tonight in front of all of you experts. But as I mentioned already, everyone's voice counts. And we know that diverse representation is the key to better policy decisions and outcomes. Your voice today matters as much as your voice in 5 years and 10 years, especially in light of the urgency of the issues we're facing today. And that's why I believe that organizations like PSR has such an important role to play in fostering current and future leaders, because many of you, I would imagine, are committed to your profession. Perhaps some of you have been engaged members of the PSR for a long time. I believe that this kind of intergenerational organization can help create a steady stream of individuals committed to creating a safer, healthier world. As I conclude my words of congratulations to you today, I would like to share that one of my turning points in my professional career to date was meeting Setsuko Thoro, an A-bomb survivor and activist based in Canada. She was 13 years old when the atomic bomb was dropped onto Hiroshima. A few months after I started working for my job, I had the opportunity to hear Setsuko's story of why she decided to speak up for abolishing nuclear weapons, a conscious decision not shared by every hibakusha. Setsuko told us that she arrived in Virginia in 1954 to pursue higher education. After her story about Hiroshima and her thoughts on nuclear weapons was published by a local paper, she found herself receiving threats and hate letters telling her to go back to her country. Alone in a foreign country and shocked by the hatred, Setsuko had to stay with her professor for a while to ensure her safety. She had to make a decision. Do I continue to speak out, or do I become silent? As she looks back at those days, she says they helped her renew her commitment as an activist. Setsuko realized that her identity as an A-bomb survivor had to be the central core of her being. Listening to that story was critical in me deciding that I am in this cause for good. I thought if somebody like her and others are working on this issue, literally dedicating their lives, I also need to be seriously committed. So I hope you can reflect on why you are committed to the causes you work on. What kind of a world do you dream of? And how do you want to be part of the solutions through your contributions to the PSR? I hope that serves as the light for you when our battles get rough. And at the same time, let us aspire to be the reason why others join our movements. I thank you very much.
Hello, I am Dr. Natasha D. Jarnett, and I am amazed and pleased and excited to be here with Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, who is the C.S. Mott Endowed Professor of Public Health at Michigan State University College of Human Medicine and founding director of the Pediatric Public Health Initiative and Innovative Partnership of MSU and the Hurley Children's Hospital in Flint, Michigan. A pediatrician, scientist, activist, and author, Dr. Hanna-Attisha was named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world and recognized as one of USA Today's Women of the Century for her role in uncovering the Flint water crisis and leading recovery efforts. She has testified multiple times before the U.S. Congress, lectures at dozens of colleges and universities, and frequently contributes to national media outlets championing the cause of children in Flint and beyond. An accomplished academic and inspiring climate change maker, or change maker, I should say, Dr. Hannah
I hope
Atisha.
I'm not making climate change. I'm not
No,
making climate
no.
change. I'm probably a little bit, but that's the
Right. Dr. Hannah Atisha is the author of the widely acclaimed and New York Times 100 most notable book, What the Eyes Don't See, a story of crisis, resistance, and hope in American City. And I must say that it is a dream come true for me to be speaking with you, Dr. Mona. I was actually staffed at the American Public Health Association when you published your article on the Flint water crisis in the American Journal of Public Health, which is the journal of the American Public Health Association. So our members called for swift and immediate response, and I was grateful to be the staff lead in the response activities. So it is an honor to speak with you tonight for the PSR Gala, and I know our audience cannot wait to hear from you. So without further ado, let us begin our conversation. So for those who don't know, what happened in Flint and where does it stand now?
First, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with everybody. Thank you for the invite. PSR is awesome. I'm a member, I'm a cheerleader, I'm a champion. So thank you for everybody out there who continues to support PSR and its mission. And Natasha, it's good to see you again. We've connected before. It's great to connect again. It's an honor to have this conversation with you. So, Flint, I think most people like heard of Flint and the water crisis, but it's been a minute. So I'll quickly recap. So Flint was lost democracy, like that isn't like misplace it, but it was taken away. The state took over Flint's democracy in 2011, and we were under emergency management, and the goal was austerity. It was all about saving money, and those emergency managers who are unelected, unaccountable, decided to change our drinking water from the Great Lakes to the Flint River. And I can't give a talk without putting up my hand. So this is Michigan and the Mitten State, and we are surrounded by the Great Lakes. We are surrounded by the largest source of fresh water in the world. 21% of the fresh water in the world is around Michigan. And here's Flint, kind of in the middle. And for half a century, we were getting our water from the Great Lakes. And these unelected, unaccountable emergency managers decided, hey, that was now too expensive for this predominantly poor and predominantly minority community. And in April of 2014, they changed our water to the local Flint River. It wasn't treated properly. It was super corrosive. It ate up our drinking water infrastructure, which has a lot of lead in it, and lead leached out of our pipes into our drinking water and into the bodies of our children. And that happened for about a year and a half. When I heard about the possibility of lead in the water, that's when my life changed as a pediatrician, public health person. We know what lead does. And I did the research that helped expose that lead was increasingly in the bodies of our children, published rapidly in the AJPH, the American Journal of Public Health, which was fantastic. And since then, we've been working on our recovery. So it was a year and a half of contaminated water, but also a crisis of lost trust, of betrayal, of trauma, atop a community really kind of rattled with so many pre-existing inequities. So, a lot has happened since then. We're back on Great Lakes water. Our pipes are being replaced. I spend my everyday making sure that the people of Flint, especially our children, have the brightest future possible. And also, advocating and making sure these kinds of things don't continue to happen.
Absolutely. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for laying the ground on what took place there in Flint. And it certainly shows the susceptibility of all of us through this example of a place that is surrounded by fresh water for this to take place there. And you are obviously an environmental justice hero. Advocacy seems to be in your bones. And I understand that not only are you a PSR member now, but you were a student member. So when did you first start thinking about advocacy being a major part of your life as a physician? And how did you first get involved with PSR?
Oh, that's a great question. So I was a member of my med school chapter of PSR, and advocacy. You know, it for me was instilled way before that, but it was one of the reasons I went into medicine, because of the role I could play as an advocate, and it's definitely one of the reasons I went into pediatrics. Like one of my job descriptions in pediatrics is, I'm a clinician, I'm a researcher, I'm an academic, I'm an educator, but also embedded in my professionalization was that I'm an advocate. That was reaffirmed by membership in professional societies, but also by, my discipline. Like this is part of that oath you take. Yes, you take care of folks at the bedside, but you also use your very credible, powerful, privileged role in society to elevate the voices of the community, but definitely to speak truth to power when there may be something that's threatening the health and safety of those that we're privileged to care for. So advocacy is part of the job. It has, people are like, oh, you this is not what doctors are doing, supposed to do. You're not doing, doctors aren't supposed to testify before Congress and do all. Yes, this is exactly what doctors are supposed to be doing. We need more doctors and scientists to get out of our cozy ivory towers, classrooms, hospitals, clinics, and get into those public spaces and, and wield this amazing power that we have to make a difference, to improve health. The Flint story, for a year and a half, so many people were raising red flags, like amazing moms and activists and journalists and scientists and lawyers. So many people were saying there was something wrong with the water. And then, I stood up with my white coat and lots of degrees after my name. And I said something was wrong with the water too. And first there was a lot of backlash, but eventually it was the voice of medicine that changed the trajectory of a city. So do not underestimate the power that you have in this profession, to be an advocate and to work in partnership with community to address issues.
Oh, I absolutely love what you just shared about the voice of medicine that changed the trajectory for a community. I think that all who are listening must have received that as a call to action, because if not us, who? So a call to action for health professionals, physicians, and health professionals alike, to be the voice for the voiceless at the time when it's absolutely necessary and needed. Thank you so much. So building from that, what characteristics or attributes does a physician, scientist, or student need to pursue, to discern, and to act upon scientific truth?
Oh, great question. So I think there's a lot of characteristics to be able to do this kind of work. And I think there's something that draws so many of us to medicine and healthcare and public health. And that's because we care, right? We're in this service-driven profession for the people, right? For the people and the power that we have to improve their potential and their health. So I think, research shows that as doctors and healthcare folks progress in their careers, they get a little jaded. They get beaten down by the system of training, and you get consumed by billing and coding and EMR and ICD-10 codes. And it's like, and you forget that why that drew you to this field in the first place. So if I can give one bit of advice, it's to constantly remind yourself, what is my why? Like, why did I go to school forever? Like, why am I joining this, gala right now? Why am I taking test after test after test? Why am I working 80 hours a week? Why? And the answer should always be the people. And that has kind of enabled me to do this work. So when times are tough, when it's hard to speak truth to power, when it's hard to fight these overwhelming health injustices, when you're exhausted, I literally pause and I ask myself, Mona, why? Like, why? And for me, the answer is always kids. As a pediatrician, that's my why. And that's what gives me that kind of recharge to continue to push forward and to do this work. So stay grounded in your why. And I hope every single person out there that your why is people. And then I would say another, attribute or characteristic, or a skill, is, is to prepare yourself for, these kinds of things. Like, I had taken advantage in my training opportunities to do things like advocacy training or legislative training. It may not have been part of my medical school curriculum, but I sought it out by being a member of things like PSR or the AAP or the AMA. Like, there's all these professional groups that offer these extra experiences to garner these other really important skills. If you are still have an opportunity to take courses, if you're an undergrad or even a med school, take a public speaking class, take a branding class, a marketing class, a forensics course, communication, social media, storytelling, journalism. I think what has helped me do this work is my ability to be a storyteller and to be a communicator. We are taught in medicine how to write in medical notes, but we're also taught to write and publish in academic journals, which is important, like AJPH, but it doesn't reach the lay public, and it doesn't always have the ability to persuade policy and and kind of broader issues that affect our patients and our communities. So if you have an opportunity to, for example, speak about the current RSV surge, or, speak to a journalist about racism as a public health crisis. And even if you don't know much about it, research it. And even if your whole interview is full of ums, the next one's going to be better. So say yes to those opportunities where you can practice being an advocate. In medicine, we do a lot of practicing. We do a lot of role playing. We do a lot of simulation. We simulate how to draw blood and how to do lumbar punctures and how to give, bad news. We also have to make sure that we're training future physicians and future folks in health on how to be advocates. My learners, my medical students and my residents, and this is before the water crisis, when I was residency director, every year we would have advocacy training. So we would role play, like I would be a legislator and my residents, would be residents, and we would talk about issues, and we prepare fact sheets that have very little words and lots of bullets. And then, we'd role play how it is to kind of interact with a policymaker. And then we would go to the state capitol every year, and we would talk to policymakers. And, and that was a great experience, because then they realized, hey, these are just regular people, and they listen to me because I'm an expert on health. And I vote. So there's, take advantage of these opportunities to enable you to have these skills to be an advocate. One more thing. A lot of my learning about how to care best for my patients didn't come from medical textbooks. A lot of it came from the humanities, which is one of the reasons I decided to write a book, because I love literature. But, as much as you can also embrace the humanities, every book that you read puts you into the shoes of others and complements your understanding of history, geography, politics, race, society. And that, for me, is how we build empathy and how we build understanding to care for patients and to be their best advocates.
Oh, this is wonderful advice, guidance, insight for the field. So don't forget the why. The why is that we care about people, and be grounded in this why. And there are so many training opportunities that are out there. PSR has Climate Ambassadors program that can help you to become a strong advocate. If you feel like you're not a strong advocate, you will feel like a strong advocate by the time you reach the end of that. We have to be able to reach the lay public. We are great at communicating with other scientists, but we also have a responsibility to communicate to the lay public, and we're trusted messengers. So that speaks to that responsibility. So this is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for the wisdom and insight you're pouring into us. I have a few more questions for you to continue to extract this awesome wisdom of yours. So let's focus on students. Where should students consider going beyond their coursework to prepare and identify and be able to solve these bigger problems?
Oh, that's also a wonderful question. And I touched on it a little bit. We can't we can't figure out where we are, and we can't figure out how to make the world better without starting by going back. And I'm looking behind you, and I see Cast by Isabel. Look at a great book. Like, we step over history every single day. We literally step over it. And, we close our eyes to it. We close our eyes to anything that's dark or complicated, but we cannot make the world better. We cannot improve the health of a population or of a person without understanding that history. And in medicine, we do a lot of history. We take a past medical history, a social history, a family history, environmental history. We need to do better on that. But we take a lot of histories, but we need to take an even bigger history, because the scars that pass on generation after generation. And as a nation, we've never really healed those scars. We've never done anything to address those scars. So once again, if students want to be better doctors, learn the history of not only the community that you're working in, but learn the history of our nation, and recognize, that your patient in front of you who doesn't want to take the COVID vaccine, recognize why. Could it be because of, decades of, medicine being a bad player, going back to Tuskegee and Henrietta Lacks, and the list goes on of examples where there's a lot of reason for them not to trust you. So I think as much as you can kind of broaden your perspectives, to learn as much outside of science and medicine, that will make you more of a empathetic, compassionate, humanistic doctor who will best take care of your patients.
And that's exactly what we need, empathetic, humanistic physicians. Absolutely. But I love what you're saying about not knowing the history, and we've got to know the history. And there are a lot of efforts that are to block us from knowing our history, but we also have our history right at our fingertips through these computers that we hold in our hand every day, called cell phones and beyond. Yeah. So we need to be empowered to do that and learn the history of where you are, the communities where we're serving, and how that impacts health there. I love it, broadening our perspectives. So we've talked about students. Let's go towards young physicians. Why is it important for young physicians to get involved in advocacy? And what are some of the challenges or obstacles facing young health professionals and medical students today when it comes to advocacy?
So I am so inspired by our young physicians and our medical students. The change that is happening now in medicine and healthcare is being led by young people who are like, hey, we are sick of the status quo. We want climate education. We want to learn about racism as a health crisis. We teach us about public health, teach us about how to be advocates. So this is being driven by young people. So, it is inspiring. When I have a chance to interact with young physicians, I learn. They are teaching me. If you look at the kind of the movements that are happening across the world right now, who are they led by? They're being led by young people. Climate change, March for Our Lives, Black Lives Matter. The list goes on. It is young people who are like, we are sick of you not making change, and we're sick of these injustices. Look at the last election. It was young people who at least in Michigan, but I think throughout the nation, who led kind of this charge to preserve our democracy and to preserve a lot of our rights. So I, as a pediatrician, I have great respect for young people. I think the voting age should actually be lowered to 16 at least. And that we need to kind of sometimes get out of the way and let the young folks, young physicians, young leaders, to do what they want to do and finally create the change that we have failed for generations to do. So it's hard because a young physician, if you're in residency, it's hard, right? It is really, really hard. The hours are long. So many folks come to me. I was former residency director, like, we want to be advocates. I'm like, you just have to get through residency. Like, you just have to get that doctor degree and then you'll have more time. But every kind of training is different. So if you're at a point in your career where you're deciding what specialty to go into or where to do your residency training, these are opportunities where if you're interested in advocacy, you can find a better fit. For example, some specialties, that's a big focus. Like pediatrics advocacy is a big focus of what we do. It's part of training. Every resident has to have some sort of advocacy training, but maybe not so much in like general surgery. It's different, although we need advocates in every specialty. And then I would also say, like, once you've decided on like your specialty that you want to go into, every training program is a little different. They're all good, but they're like they can have different flavors, and some might have either more tracks or more experiences or more opportunities to have mentorship and training to be an advocate. So try to find a place where you can thrive also as an advocate. You don't want to be at a place where that's not what they're interested in, because it's always going to be an uphill battle, especially when you're young and it'd be more likely to get jaded. So find a mentor. I've been blessed with so many mentors throughout my career who encouraged me, for example, to go back to school and get my health policy degree, or to work part-time when I had a kid, or more recently, like, my dean, in Michigan, we had a proposal to restore Roe v. Wade. And I asked, I'm like, is it okay if I record a commercial to support this? And, usually as an academic, like, you're not supposed to be involved in like political things. And he's like, absolutely. So you also want to be at a place that fosters your role and develops your role as a public intellectual, because that's what it means to be in this field, that you have influence, that you can kind of be, once again, that trusted messenger. So how do you get training in that, and how it's important to be in a place that fosters that development and that experience. So I run this pediatric public health initiative, and something that we learned in Flint, and something that I think we've learned in the pandemic, is that we need more doctors to be advocates, right? More doctors to be out in those public spaces. So I have a training program that we created. It's called the Alice Hamilton Scholar Program, named after one of my heroes, Alice Hamilton. So if you don't know about her, Google. She's an amazing woman from the 1920s, first woman professor, badass woman physician. So she's amazing. Anyway, so it's named after her, and it's a training program for that's 2 years after residency, where folks get their public health degree, they do research, they're clinicians, but they also learn how to be advocates. We embed them within our state chapter of our pediatric association. They write opinion pieces, they meet with legislators, they meet with, they draft bills, they research things. Like, so these skills aren't innate. We have to be able to train them and train people to do this kind of work. So find those opportunities. There's many more out there. If they're not there, demand them. Once again, it's young people who are creating these change. Demand that their addition in the UGME curriculum, which is medical school, or the GME curriculum. And there's lots of other kind of post-training fellowship scholar programs where you can garner more of these skills.
Once again, a call to action. I feel a call to action here, calling on young professionals to be the change that they want to see in this world. So to find a place where you can thrive as an advocate, as a public intellectual, if you want to learn about climate, you want to learn about racism, and connect that in your work in medicine and health and public health. And then you have a great example in the Alice Hamilton training program. Thank you so much for the example. Thank you for that call to action again. And so I'll go on to our next question. So, and I'm going to turn the question back to you. What question have you wanted someone to ask you about your work and life experience?
Oh, Natasha, that's a great question. I don't know. I feel so blessed. So that I get to do this work with all of you. And it is a wake up every day and pinch myself that I have the opportunity, to try to make a difference in the health of my patients and my community. So I have a few tips that I will leave, especially our young folks with, and for some reason they all start with a P. Okay, so the first tip for the young, for everybody out there, and I kind of talked about this earlier, is find your passion, find your why, find what grounds you, because that you need that when times are tough, and you need that when you're frustrated and you feel beat down, or you feel like you're going against all these systems. So find your passion, find your why, and your why can change over time, and that's totally okay. But find your why. My second bit of advice is find your peeps, find your people. My work was never done by myself. It was done by a village. It was done by a team. And often in medicine and health, we tend to become very siloed. But we talked about kind of the multi-sector, intersectional nature of health and all these other systems like history and geography and race and place, all these different things. So there's people in all those spaces that also care about what you care about. If you care about climate change, there's a lot of people out there that care about climate change. If you care about women's reproductive rights, there's a lot of folks out there. If you care about environmental health or, immigration rights or health, there's lots of folks who care about something that you care about. Don't reinvent the wheel. Find your peeps. And then you need your peeps because this is a long game. There's going to be good days and bad days, and you're going to need your peeps to lift you up, and you're going to need to be there to lift them up when times are tough. So find your passion, find your peeps. And then my next bit of P advice is be persistent. You all are part of PSR because you want to make the world a better place, right? You care, and you want to see change. And change sometimes doesn't happen overnight. So you have to be persistent. If it's little change that you want to, do in your health system, like get rid of plastic waste, or if it's big change at the federal policy level, it takes time, but sometimes there'll be a window of opportunity and you have to be ready to jump through that window to create that change. I'll give you one example. The Infrastructure Act that just passed Congress, signed by the president, replaces lead pipes across the country. We have been advocating for this for years. Before I was born, people were advocating for this. But there was a window of opportunity and we jumped through it and we helped make it happen. Be persistent. And I also like to add, be pleasantly persistent, maybe to the point of annoying. But if I am not getting what I want, I'm like, I drown them with kindness. Hey, it's me again. I haven't heard from you. Maybe I lost your email or I went to the wrong place. Can you please let me know what you think about this? So persistence. Okay. So find your passion, find your peeps, be persistent. And the last thing that we also talked about is be prepared. You never know when an opportunity may present itself where you have to go, you have to lean on a lot of these skills. So rather than learn these skills, at that point, take advantage of, once again, the opportunities that come your way by, doing these extra training sessions, going to conferences, being those ambassadors, finding a mentor, raising your hand for something, even though it sounds scary, practice being a leader, all these different things. You, especially young folks, you have an opportunity now to create lots of dots and lots of experiences. It might not make sense where you're going, but those are things that will help you get there. So in conclusion, find your passion, find your peeps, stay persistent, and be prepared.
Wonderful wise words to close us out on. I am going to leave here finding my passion, being reminded of that, finding my peeps, my people. We all need community. This is the marathon, like you said, not the sprint. Be persistent or be pleasantly persistent and then being prepared. Oh, I love this. I have loved our conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha. Your leadership has been paramount. It is an inspiration. Thank you to PSR for facilitating this conversation and for being my peeps, our peeps. And thank you to all those who tuned in. I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff Carter.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mona and Natasha, for that wonderful discussion. You are both so great. I always leave every conversation I have with either one of you individually more inspired, and now, to watch the two of you together, it's just so great. Thank you. Hey, for anyone who's joined late or have forgotten, I'm Jeff Carter. I'm PSR's Executive Director, and I am here to close us out. We're so grateful that you joined us tonight at this gala and for supporting our mission through your donations and your activism. If you haven't already, you can go to psr.org/gala to make a donation today. I want to thank our wonderful speakers, our sponsors, our board and staff, and most importantly, you for making this year's gala a huge success. Look, I know these are difficult days. I know it can be discouraging and even frightening sometimes. But I remain hopeful, and I hope you do too. I'm just watching this program tonight. Everyone you heard from, every one of these people gives me hope. I hope they do that for you too. And I particularly want to say for our younger members and younger staff and volunteers that I feel like at my ripe old age, the number one thing that I'm committed to is to trying to do everything I can do to help you create the safer, cleaner, more peaceful world that I know that you're all striving for. Let me know what I can do to help, and thank you. Together we have a tremendous impact and make our world a safer place for ourselves and for generations to come. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you and good night.